Once upon a time, there was the Silly family. Mother Silly, Father Silly, and daughter Millie Silly. Now Millie had a boyfriend, Billy, and Billy would come to call. One day, Millie said to Billy, "You wait right here and I'll go down to the cellar and get a mug full of cider." So she went downstairs and she was gone for a long time. And pretty soon, Mother Silly said, "I'll go down to the cellar and see what's happening. Why is Millie not back here yet?" And so the mother goes down to the cellar, and there is Millie on the floor of the cellar just weeping and crying. And there's the mug sitting right under the tap on the cider barrel, and the cider is going and spilling down on the cellar floor. And the mother said, "What on earth are you crying about?" And Millie says, "Don't you see that old axe stuck up there in the rafters? Wouldn't it be terrible if Billy and me got married and we had a son and he came down here to the cellar to get some cider and that big old rusty axe fell and hit him in the head and killed him?" Well, Mother Silly, she saw that big axe up there and she realized, yeah, it could fall. Oh, and it was big and heavy and it could kill a person, yeah. And so she began to weep and sob and cry. And the cider kept on running down into the mug and overflowing onto the floor. Well, upstairs, Father Silly and Billy are sitting wondering what has ever happened to those women. Father Silly says, "I'll go down and find out." And he goes down to the cellar and he finds the two of them weeping and sobbing and crying and sniffling. And he says, "What in the world is the matter?" And Mother Silly says, "Don't you see that great big old heavy rusty axe up there in the ceiling? Wouldn't it be terrible if Billy and Millie got married and they had a son and he came down here into the cellar to get some cider and that big old rusty axe fell and hit him and killed him?" Well, Father Silly looked up and he realized, yeah, that axe could fall. That's dangerous. And he began to cry. And he got down on the cellar floor along with the women. And the cider kept coming out of the barrel and spreading all over the cellar floor. Well, after a while, Willie himself, Billy, Willie, whatever you want to call it, he decides he's going to go down to the cellar and see what's happening. And he sees the whole bunch, the whole Silly family, there on the sodden cellar floor, soaked in cider and crying. And he asks them, "What's the matter?" And Father Silly says, "Don't you see that great big old dangerous heavy rusty axe stuck up into the ceiling? Wouldn't it be terrible if you and Millie got married and you had a son and he came down here to the cellar to get some cider and that great big old dangerous sharp sword axe fell and hit him and killed him?" Oh. Well, Willie looked at them He looked at the axe. He reached up and grabbed the axe handle and pulled it loose from the ceiling and dropped it down on the cider-sodden cellar floor. And he said, now that axe isn't going to fall on anybody and hurt them. And I have never seen a family of people as silly as you are. I'm not going to marry Millie unless I can find at least 3 other people as silly as you are. And he walked off. As he was walking away, he came to a milkmaid's cottage. And there, up on the roof, was a cow. You know how it is. Grass will sometimes grow in the little cracks between the shingles, and she had the cow up there chewing on the grass. Well, the door of the cottage was open, and so Willie called out to the woman inside and says, don't you know you got a cow up on the roof? And she says, oh yes, I put him up there. I had helped him to climb up. And Willie said, aren't you afraid that the cow will fall off the roof? Oh, no. You notice I've got a rope around his neck, and I've got the rope down the chimney, and see, I've got the other end of the rope tied around my waist, and so no problem. Well, just about then, the cow did fall off the roof. It jerked on the cord, pulled the milkmaid into the chimney. Oh, wow! Quick, Willie to the rescue. He unties everybody, and he said, well, that's one. I've met at least one person who is as silly as the Sillies. And he walked off. And he came at dusk to a lake. And there was a man standing next to the lake looking down into the water. And Willie said, what are you looking at? And the man said, a terrible thing has happened. Can't you see? The moon has fallen into the lake. Willie said, the moon hasn't fallen into the lake. That's just a reflection. No, the moon has fallen in the lake. See? Willie says, well, look up in the sky. There's the moon's still up there. And the man says, no, the moon has fallen. The real moon has fallen into the lake. That's some other moon. Well, Willie said to himself, that makes 2. And he walked on. Well, it's dark now. And where is he going to stay for the night? Ah, there's an inn. But the innkeeper says, sorry, I've rented all my rooms. The only hope is if the last man who came in here is willing to share his room with you. Well, as it turned out, the man was willing. And so Willie spent the night in the inn, and when he got up in the morning, there was the other man with his pants stuck over the back of a chair, and the man was running and jumping at the chair. And Willie said to him, what are you trying to do? And the man says, I'm trying to jump into my pants. Can't you see? Willie says, trying to jump into your pants? I don't put on my pants that way. I just pull them on one leg at a time. And the man says, that's not the right way to do it. That's improper. Well, Willie says to himself, that's 3. I'll go back to the 3 Sillies and I'll get married to Millie. So he goes back to the 3 Sillies. And when he gets there, the place still smelled of spilled cider, but Millie wasn't around. And so Willie said to Father Silly, where's Millie? Oh, she's gone. She's eloped. A woodsman came through here and he saw her all sodden with cider, and he had compassion on her, and they've eloped. They're gone. Gone? Millie's gone. I've missed my chance. I'm the one who's silly.